If you're a business owner and sales feel harder than it should, this episode is for you. When deals stall, people blame sales. But in a lot of businesses, the real problem starts before the sales call even happens. Vic and I are going to show you how marketing decisions quietly create sales problems and what actually makes selling feel easier. Hey, and welcome to a conversation between a marketing guy and a sales guy. So we're going to talk about today, when you start getting into a sales conversation, does it become exhausting? Are you repeating things that you really wish that would have been discovered before you even made that call and got on that Zoom call or had that coffee? And we're hoping that through this conversation you can elaborate and understand how sales and marketing really need to intertwine a lot more. So Vic, thanks for joining me, and this is going to be a great series. We're going to do this hopefully every week and kind of like talk about sales and marketing.
We're going to do it until they either tell us to stop, and then we'll do it anyway, and then we'll stop. I don't know if that makes sense.
No one can really tell us to stop.
They can't. This is America.
Absolutely. So, you're a sales expert.
Ooh.
You wrote a book about it, so hey, you have to.
Okay, self-proclaimed expert.
So Vic, let's just go over the rules of the sales department and the marketing department. Why don't you start with, the sales department?
Sure. My definition of sales really starts upstream, if you will. I use this analogy a lot. It's connecting somebody who wants and needs something with that which they want and need. It's not convincing anybody to do anything. It's not square peg and round hole territory. It is the facilitation of that process. So the upstream is, let's hope that, and maybe this is marketing, if we're going to blame. Is this a blame game? Sales versus marketing? Sales perhaps. And marketing? Yes, perhaps it's all of the above. But getting yourself as a salesperson or business owner, disguising themselves as a salesperson, in front of people who hopefully already want and need what we're going to discuss.
Perfect. And I really think that the idea of the marketing is help you find those people that need the service that you guys are providing. But I think that sometimes marketing gets a giant net, tries to scoops up every fish in the pond, whereas sometimes salespeople just need us to put out a cast, just one line at a time, and reel in one quality big fish instead of a bunch of school of fish.
There's nobody that's going to argue with that.
Sales and the marketing can sometimes get in the way of each other. That's
it. Because if sales, it's a tug of war, perhaps. And again, I don't want to make this adversarial, but it's a system that goes back and forth, and that's a healthy thing. It's that feedback loop. So if sales is saying we need more leads, and marketing's primary purpose in what you've described, I think, is a lead generation device, then there's going to be a time where marketing's going to go, okay, let's widen that net. Sales asked for it. Careful what you wish for, they say. Now we got a bunch of leads for you. But there'll be other times when sales might mistakenly, because they shouldn't do this, go slow down. You should never say slow down in sales. But the fact is, then maybe marketing reels it in a little. And it's just got to go back and forth. And what's healthy, though, maybe it is that feedback, and you can comment on this, is that communication. Because it shouldn't be adversarial, as I already said. It should be fine-tuning that machine that's going to need readjusting every month anyway. The world is changing around us.
Yes. And we should be working together, because when I give you a good lead, that's when your job becomes easier. Our job becomes easier when you tell us what a good lead is. Because if we understand who there is out there that makes your job easier to sell, and what do we need to inform them and educate them on, then your job becomes pretty easy as well. Now, the idea that we don't need each other is ridiculous, though, because we can only pull in the name, the email, the phone number, but they still need that personal interaction to close the deal.
That's it. Chris, you really said something insightful there a little bit ago, and it's letting marketing know what a good lead looks like. And again, that's part of that back and forth that we speak of the communication. But I mean, how novel a concept is it, and I'm going to be sarcastic here, to reverse engineer, a phrase I use a lot, of what actually has worked? Or, here's another idea from the other side of the same coin. Let's learn from what hasn't worked, right? Because it's all about you and I, we just spend hours talking about sales and marketing because we're nerds that way. And that phrase ICP we throw around, and let's define it for those who may not know, that ideal client profile. But it's so important. And as I've heard tell, it isn't always defining what and who you're trying to work with, but it certainly tells you who to say no to. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. If you bring in the people that aren't ideal clients and bring them in your funnel and spend time and energy working, trying to convince them,
right,
whatever you're trying to sell them, your product or service, you're just wasting time. At the end of the day, when they come in, they should be educated on how your product or service is already going to help them. And ultimately, the decision they're making is your product or service the perfect product or service to solve their problem? Because none of us live in a monopoly where we're the only product or service in our world. So if you educate them and dig in and really figure it out, and then you hand that off to the salesperson, and then they have a proper process to answer their questions, to dive deeper into what their pains are, and making sure that it is the perfect product or service too. Because you don't want to have a client that you're not the perfect product or service for either, because they become bad clients. Because now you're like rearranging something or making something different and duct taping something together just so you can work with that one person. We all do that when we start a business because we need the sale. But once you get rolling and smooth sailing, you shouldn't be doing that.
You have to draw that line. Your team, everyone around you needs to be aligned, and marketing certainly needs to understand from a sales perspective where that line is. Because like you said, and I use that upstream, downstream analogy a lot, and that problem customer that you're bringing in out of desperation, or you're being nice. You caught me in a good mood. Boy, there's fatal words. Let's do this. But you're going to have problems downstream. And this is hard to see, is that, well, it's easy money. They're already a client now, right? What is it hurting? It's hurting everything, and I like to lean into analogies, and maybe we just stick with that stream, is that, you brought something in, and you're a small business. It's a small stream. It's not very wide, but you let something in that is going to limit the other things from floating down that little mini river. Well, now it's in the way. And it's hard to wrap your head around that, because you're thinking, well, the more that gets through there, the better, right? No, because there's things that happen downstream from an operational way that if it was not an ideal customer, which you continually redefine based on how easy it was to service them, and firing clients can be liberating because it frees up that damage and that muck and that machinery I'm mixing all kinds of metaphors here, but everything is just a mess. You want it to be smooth flowing, right? So, I know we're saying the same thing, but, I think some truisms we tapped into is careful what you wish for. Boy, I want to work with so many clients. You do, but then continually readjust that. Redefine your ideal client profile and limit who you let in the door.
Makes sense. When you enter a sales conversation with a prospect, what are some questions that come out of that prospect that you just shake your head and you say, marketing has not done their job?
So, well, you know what? Let's put some accountability into it. I'm going to answer the way you are, but I work with a lot of clients where, let's say they're a big company and they have house rules. If you get a lead from the website, it must be followed up on yada, yada, yada. I think a lot of people here listening will resonate with them. But it doesn't mean that you can't pick up the phone and intervene a little step in that process to do some pre-qualifying or additional qualifying. And if you have to, I'm just going to tell all you guys working for the big corporations and gals, disguise it as a confirming. Hey, Chris, I'm confirming our meeting for next week that you set up on the website. Got a few questions for you. And if it's a poop show, I'm not allowed to say the other word maybe, then get yourself out of that scenario, all right, and figure out a better way to spend your time and their time. Yeah, thanks for coming out. This will be my 5th quote. I just want to see fifth quote. Why? What's happening here? Why are we meeting? If that makes sense. But back to you, if marketing's not doing their job, I don't know if I expect marketing to put a limit on that. A qualified customer, but we don't know that they're not getting the first quote, they're asking for the fifth quote or whatever the scenario may be. I'm not going to blame marketing for that, but it's that feedback loop. Hey, maybe our intake form should have that question. Have you already spoken to anybody else about this? I don't know. Something like that.
I mean, I'm sure there's people that are confused about your product or service. I mean, if you're having these conversations, let's say someone's having a conversation with me, and they think I'm going to come out and record their daughter's wedding. That means all my marketing materials completely failed me, and everything that I put out there, because nothing in the world would put out that I am looking to do wedding. You have an example like that you could think of?
Chris, you're describing the human condition. So, yeah, we're dealing with humans. I'm going to act like I'm not a human for just a second. Yeah. And anybody who's leaning into AI, which I hope is everyone, starts to understand that we really are humans, and that there's those among us now that aren't. And that's our little Groks and Chat GPTs and all that. But here's what happens is humans hear what they want to hear. Words have power, we have to remember as people, and be careful. So your website, Chris, says something about video. I've heard enough. You're going to film my wedding, right? And what's worse is, it's because they like you. I like what I saw. I like the look of your face. I think you're the guy. So how do you educate them in advance? And for some people, in some situations, you can't. So it's all about filters. It's all about, again, that ICP, which if you do these things right, and you understand exactly what it is you do, and you in marketing, I say sales, I'm speaking to salespeople here, but I should speak to both. Sales and marketing are aligned, and you know exactly what it is you do, who needs it, and how they benefit, well, then make sure your questions from the very beginning are filtering down to that level. And here, I'll throw in a curveball, and this is the magic formula. Get ready, listeners. This is what you're looking for. If you know what your differentiators are, that you can truly say that no one in your competition can say, and look deeply, because some of them may look like weaknesses. I'm a one-man business, I might say. This is me talking, because I am. That's a weakness. No, that's a strength. If you call Viking sales consultants, you know who you're going to get. So I'm going to lean into that as a differentiator for what it's worth. And there's a person out there that likes that. So let's say they do. I'm going to ask questions that are geared towards what they need to start to filter based on the what I do. And then I'm quickly going to get to, what's your pain? What keeps you up at night? Well, and start getting them to describe a situation. So back to that sales doing what they do. And a good salesperson is always going to say, just get me the lead and I'll do this. And that's what I just described. But we can do better. Because again, if we're back to, I saw something about video on your website and I want you to film my video. We certainly could have done a better job with that from a marketing perspective before that conversation even happened. But wait, Vic, Chris, let me go one step further. But wait, Vic, anyone could be our customer. You're leaving money on the table. What if they need me for what I do tomorrow? You got to draw a line somewhere. Would you agree, Chris?
100%. And that's where, let's use a website, for example. Above the fold, or if you're doing a website landing page video, you need to say what service you're providing, how you're solving someone's problem.
Yep.
People buy problem solutions, ultimately. I love that whole theory in that. Who exactly? Call them out. I work with small business owners who need to generate more leads through social media videos. Now, if you don't fall within that little phrase there, you ain't going to continue through the website. But if you do continue, you've now clarified that you know why you're here and you know I can help you with your problem. So I think that in your marketing materials, you need to be very clear, especially in your headlines and such.
Well, okay, let me frame that different. I like what you're saying, very clear. But here's a phrase, and now you got me on my soapbox as the sales guy. Okay, marketing, stay off my lawn, but here's what I need you to do. This is the old sales guy talking. Vaguely specific is one of my favorite phrases. And here's how it plays out. If you're too vague, you get the problems we just talked about. Oh, I saw something about video, but I didn't quite understand it. Can you film my wedding? No, that's not what I do. You were too vague. But if you're too specific, here's how it sounds from the sales side, Chris. And these are terrifying words. I went with somebody else because I didn't realize you could do that. Thanks for setting me straight, but it's too late. I didn't know you could do that. Every salesperson hears that, and in my opinion, it started with that bad messaging. They were too vague, not specific enough. But if you're too specific, in this case, I'm sorry, they were too specific and they left some things out. You have to be vaguely specific in your language. Give them just enough to go, I think I got the gist of it. It probably includes what I need, so I'm going to go ahead and call. But it's definitely not wedding videos, so I'm not going to call. I don't know. Does that make sense? You want to comment? Is this a new concept for you?
No. If you think about it, let's just say I left with the generic videos for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
At least I say businesses.
Yes.
Now, the video portion, I'm leaving it open. Now it's YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's social media. Now maybe in your head, TikTok, for whatever reason, should be listed individually. I'm not throwing you a curveball by just saying YouTube. So you're leaving a broader spectrum open, but you're still narrowing it down to a point where someone knows it's for business, not for weddings. So at
And
least
what you're saying,
you're eliminating something.
that's it. And you said this.
You have to eliminate something in this conversation.
Yep, you do. And sorry, I'm speaking over you, but the key is what you said. It's the who. That's where your vaguely specific messaging resonates. You know, I like what you're saying. And for me, it's, you know, who I help. It is solopreneurs. It is small business owners. It is salespeople. So again, I don't know what else somebody might need that doesn't fit one of those. But, you know, as much as I would love to make a new friend today, don't call me because that's all that's going to happen is maybe we'll become friends. But I doubt it because my what did they say in the old time phrase? My dance card is full. I don't know. I'm not that old. But
it's all good. So at the end of each of these videos, we're going to kind of summarize in a point where we want to give you an idea of what to do. So I think that Vic kind of said it right here. We want you to figure out who your who is. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that your sales department and your marketing department know who the who is that you're really targeting. If you can target down a particular demographic, a particular set of people, what their pains are, and you say, this is who we're targeting. Yes, they can weave off of them in little ways, but if you're going after that who properly together as a team, you'll get more of that person.
Well spoken. Bravo. Right. And I want to come back for more. I hope some people listening or watching want to come back for more.
We're going to do another video. We're not going to change our clothes, but we're going to appear next week. So stay tuned for next week's video, and we're going to bring marketing and sales together in the same room to try to grow your business.
Thank you.